Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Real Jobs Day, brought to you by Toronto Crew. I'm Farah Kimji, the founder of Futura Funds and the president for Toronto Crew. Just so you guys all know, Toronto Crew stands for Commercial Real Estate Women, and our organization is dedicated to helping women and empowering them to excel, influence, and lead throughout their real estate careers. All of the programming that we put on, and especially this program that we're bringing you today, is supported by our sponsors, which you saw scrolling through on the presentation when you first joined. So we thank all of our sponsors for helping us to deliver quality programs to all of you today. Now, today's program is especially special because it's just something we've been supporting for several years, and we're happy to offer it this year in a virtual format, so many of you can join from wherever you are. You guys will be in really good hands for this afternoon. And so without further ado, I'm going to kick it off to Alicia, and she's going to get today's session started. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Farah. Welcome to Real Jobs Day, everyone. My name is Alicia Vera, and I am the chair of Toronto Crew's Real Jobs Day. I'm also a director at the Altus Group in their Property Tax Expert Services Division. Altus Group is a multidisciplinary expert service, data solution, and software solution company. So let's go through our agenda for today. So we are going to have our panel, and then we are going to have our Kahoot game, where you can log in either on your computer or your mobile device and go to kahoot.it. We will also have additional materials for you, either as an individual or a teacher, to do with your classroom, and we'll wrap it up. So let's get to the panel. I am excited to be your moderator for this afternoon's panel, introduce you to this amazing group of women. We're going to talk about their career paths and their education and their commercial real estate careers. So today we have Sophia, Suzanne, and Carolyn to speak to you. And I'm going to ask each of you to tell us your name, the company you work for, and let's talk a little bit about the company that you work for. We'll get to your positions later on. Let's start with Sophia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophia LaSalva, and I am proud to work for Oxford Properties. I've been with Oxford for a little over 4 years now. And for those who might not be familiar, Oxford is the real estate investment arm of the OMERS pension plan. So for those of you who know anyone in your family or friends who works for the city, lots of city workers, we take care of their pensions in addition to many, many other pensioners. So Oxford takes care of the investments that those pensioners make, and we buy up a lot of fun stuff like Yorkdale Mall, Square One Shopping Center, Scarborough Town Center, and we act as a landlord to those tenants at those centers that we have all over Canada, and we run them as Class A assets.
And Suzanne?
Good afternoon. My name is Suzanne McLaughlin, and I work for Infrastructure Ontario. And I've been with Infrastructure Ontario for over 15 years. And for any of you that don't know, Infrastructure Ontario, we do all the real estate for the Ontario government and all the properties that they own. And when I say we do all the real estate, it means we manage the properties, we sell the properties, we buy properties, and we also build. And it could be from offices to labs to land to hospitals to jails to courts, and it could be such things in Toronto as Ontario Place. So happy to be on the panel today, and I'll turn it over.
Thanks, Suzanne. And Carolyn?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for having me here today. So my name is Carolyn Mira, and I'm the manager of client solutions with eService Tenant Engagement Services. I've been with eService for over 19 years. eService itself has been around for 20 years. And our goal has always been to support our property manager clients with engaging their tenants, because a happy tenant and engaged tenant renews their lease. And that's the ultimate goal of a property manager or a real estate owner. eService offers office building tenants discounts on, tickets to the Blue Jays or Raptors. We organize tenant appreciation events. We help our property manager clients with their communications, their email communications or their social media channels, and we provide staffing. And most recently, actually very recently, eService was acquired by a company called Lane, which is a technology company. And so now we're able to support our property manager clients with technologies. So we're happy to be expanding the services.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. So let's talk about your educational backgrounds. We'll start with Sophia. Why don't you tell us the name of your high school, a favorite subject, and was there something that you took in high school maybe that sort of led you into the career that you're in today?
Okay, so I attended St. Thomas More, and that's in Hamilton, on the Hamilton Mountain. And I would say that the subject that probably best helped me in high school was English, definitely English. And it didn't hurt that I was and continue to be like a giant bookworm. Like, I love to read. I just, since I was little, like way before it was cool. Like now it's so cool to be, a bookworm. Back then, everyone was like, why is she like reading a book on her recess? It was really bad. So yeah, I would say that assisted me greatly, because in the role that I have, there's a lot of reading, a lot of interpretation, and a lot of drafting of complex language. So I would say that served me really well.
That's great. And how about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, I attended Bayview Secondary School in Richmond Hill, which is where I grew up. And, I was a decent student overall, but the subjects that I had a passion for were actually art and English. And as far as career plans, I can honestly say I had zero thought in terms of a career in real estate. As far as I understood it, a career in real estate meant I was going to sell a house. And that did not interest me at all. So my path to commercial real estate was far from anything but straight. Yeah.
We'll be excited to hear more about that. So let's talk about post-secondary education. We'll start with Suzanne. Where did you go to school, and what qualifications do you need to have a job in your field? And is there anything in the future you'd like to pursue, or anything specific you think that would be helpful for students to know if they're interested in a career like yours?
So my post-secondary, I went to the University of Western Ontario, and I majored in sociology and did a minor in business. And after Western, I did a postgraduate degree in HR. So like Carolyn, I didn't have a career right into corporate real estate. That wasn't actually even something on my train of thought. I started in an HR department for working in the government, for the Ontario government. And then that led me to working in a deputy minister's office. And then from there, I had a number of jobs within government, and then a number of agencies. And then I ended up working for Infrastructure Ontario. And that's where, and it was really they hired me not from a real estate perspective, but because I had experience working in government and policy, but I also had experience in HR. So I landed the job at Infrastructure Ontario, working with the president to help develop the strategic plan and how our strategic plan was aligned to our incentive plan. But working in the strategic plan, you understood all the lines of business. So that's where it evolved to what I'm doing now, which is in the client advisory. And that's working with all the ministries on their real estate needs. So helping them find solutions with respect to real estate that will help them with their program. So I think you asked me, how did I get here? It's a long and windy path, but it's very interesting. The corporate real estate is a very interesting field to be in.
I agree. How about you, Carolyn?
Sure. Yeah, I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Toronto with a major in art history, believe it or not. I made a bit of a transition in my second year. I enrolled in U of T's Co-op Arts Administration program, which helped me to realize I had some strengths in business in addition to the arts and languages. As far as the career, having a career in tenant engagement services, there's no specific qualifications that I'm aware of, but definitely strengths and experience in business and marketing and customer service are very important.
Thanks for sharing about that. So let's talk about your career paths. We'll start with Suzanne. What was your first job in the real estate industry, and what skills did you develop that allowed you to excel and be successful in the role that you're in now?
So I briefly mentioned it before. My first job at Infrastructure Ontario was a director of corporate strategy. So ultimately, what I was responsible for doing is developing the strategy for the organization, aligning what our board of directors were looking for, and communicating and aligning it down throughout the organization. And the most important part of that job is understanding the business, really listening to what people are doing, and communicating. And I think those are key things on any job, but specifically in corporate real estate, because you're a support mechanism to make sure the function of the organization runs smoothly.
How about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, my first job in commercial real estate was as the promotions director of a 3-tower office complex called the Consilium in Scarborough, located across from the Scarborough Town Center, if that helps any of you. But I thought it was the absolute best job in the world. I had a sizable budget to essentially create a tenant community, the 3,000 or 4,000 people working there. And I did things like organizing professional fashion shows, art exhibits, trade fairs, lunch and learn seminars. I engaged with our retail tenants to help them promote their services. I onboarded new tenants moving into the buildings. It was the absolute best and most fun job. I thought I had won $1 million. It was a great job. In terms of the skills I developed in that role, definitely people skills and communication skills, because I was dealing with owners of the building. I was dealing with my colleagues in property management. I was dealing with tenants, people in the municipality, and other arts organizations outside of the building as well.
And how about you, Sophia?
So I started my journey into real estate actually going through a temp agency. And I remember that the agency told me that I was going to Tim Hortons when they called me. And like, I didn't want to say anything, but I honestly thought they were sending me to work at a Tim Hortons store. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, like that's a lot of money, like to be working, like serving coffee, but like, yeah, sure. Like I'll do it. Right. So I showed up and it was at the head office, which then made a little bit more sense. So funnily enough, when they showed up, they told me that the agency should have called me because there was a mistake. And they didn't actually need someone because they had hired someone already for the permanent position. But regardless, I mean, I feel like they felt so bad for me because the look on my face was probably like, oh my God, it took me like forever to get here. And now I'm not even getting any money. So they were like, okay, we'll keep you for like 3 days here. So in those 3 days, I like really tried to make a good impression and, you know, do as much work as I could and help as much as I could. So within a few months after I stopped working those 3 days, they reached out to me to come back because the person in the full-time position actually didn't work out. So I was thrilled that they wanted me to come back. I was so excited, but they asked me to come back as a temp, not the permanent position. So this entire time, as I was working away, they were, concurrently interviewing people for this full-time position of law clerk. So I remember printing out my resume and going in to see our VP of legal, who at that time she was overseeing the hiring. And I had my speech and everything ready. And I was like, yeah, like I'm prepared for this job and I would really love you to consider me. And the VP was like, oh my God, you're so sweet. Like, thank you so much. But no. Like, I need someone in this role that's seasoned and that has experience and knows what they're doing. Like, this is definitely not like a junior role. So like, thanks, but no thanks kind of thing. So my heart sank. I was holding my resume in my hand and she didn't even take it. I was like, okay, I'll just go back like with my resume because she didn't take it. But at the same time, I thought to myself, okay, obviously I don't have a shot, but until they hire a full-time person, I can use this time to just do my best and try to learn the job, because it's like a real job. Like, I had never had like a, function in that role where it's like, real life kind of thing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to learn everything I can, try my best, and then hopefully I can get a good recommendation from the senior management here and learn things that I need for my future career in law, right? So I just soaked it all up as much as I could. I learned, I asked a ton of questions, I was eager to help, and I always maintained a positive outlook no matter what. And so 3 months later, they were going through this whole process of interviewing all these people. 3 months later, that same VP called me to her office and she had a very serious look on her face. And I was like, oh my God, they probably are going to tell me like they don't need me anymore, right? Because they've hired obviously the full-time position. So she brought me in and she sat me down and said that I had really made a good impression on her with my work ethic and my attitude. And she wanted to offer me the full-time position. So I was shocked. Like, I was so shocked. I was just stunned. And she's like, do you accept? And I was like, she didn't even take my resume. Like, how does she even, now she wants to hire me? Like, this is amazing. So that's how I started my career in real estate. I worked at the Tim Hortons head office, doing the commercial leasing for the next 10 years, and kept moving up into more managerial roles. And I spent 10 wonderful years there and learned so much. And I think the lesson that I took from that was a really important one, was really never give up, always try your best, and keep up a good attitude no matter what life throws at you, because honestly, like, you never know what can happen.
That's some really good advice. So let's talk about your current roles and responsibilities and your area of expertise. Suzanne, do you want to start?
Sure. Currently, I am a VP in the client advisory group. And what that means is I work with executives at a ministry level to understand the real estate needs and then bring that back to the organization and get people to other lines of business to actually deliver whatever they're looking for. So I know I'm being very vague. So it could be somebody needs to move locations and we need to get an office somewhere. And then I would bring that to the leasing team, who would then go out and execute the lease. Or there needs to acquire some land for a specific program. We would go out and work with our sales team our acquisitions team to buy some land. So it really is working, understanding what the program's needs, and then bringing it back to the organization for the various business units to execute. So the skills that are required in that type of a job is partnership. So understanding and being able to listen and partner to our clients. Communications, because in real estate or in construction projects, there's always things that go amiss. And so you have to be able to communicate to people so everybody understands what's going on. And then another thing that I think is leadership, is bringing the right people to the table to bring so that it's the best solution for the client.
And how about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, so in my role, I manage a small team responsible for our operations in Toronto. Thanks to COVID-19, we're no longer selling discounted tickets to anything, but we are managing our clients' communications, e-newsletters, social media, etc. And I also work with my colleague in the US to promote our in-lobby concierge staff. So we send out staff to property managers, typically smaller property managers who don't have the resources or the money or the funds to implement things like tenant engagement activities on their own.
And Sophia?
So at Oxford, I'm a legal manager in our legal services department, and I specialize in negotiating the commercial retail leases for our national assets. So as I mentioned before, you might know Yorkdale or Scarborough Town or Upper Canada Mall, Kingsway, Hillcrest, many, many more. At the end of the day, my goal is to negotiate a lease with a tenant. So let's say Sephora wants to go into Upper Canada Mall. I would gather the information from our leasing people to make sure that I have a strong understanding of the financial structure of the deal. So, minimum rent, percentage rent, all of the financials of the deal. And then I proceed to negotiate basically the rest of all of the terms of the lease with the tenant's lawyer. So anything from co-tenancy. So for instance, for those of you who don't know, a co-tenancy is, for instance, Sephora wants to ensure that it only has to open and operate if the Nordstrom in the mall is going to open and operate. So if Nordstrom isn't open, they don't have to open, or they'll work in certain penalties for the landlord. So that's, one type of co-tenancy. Or Sephora might say, okay, we'll do a Sephora in Hillcrest Mall, but you, landlord, need to give me a representation that you won't rent out space to Morphe or to Urban Decay, because that's a direct competitor of theirs, right? So, all those negotiations, we fight that out till the bitter end and come up with a beautiful lease all wrapped up, and it's 85 pages.
Yes, I have the privilege of having to read some of those leases. So let's talk about the 3 top skills that you need to be successful in your role. Carolyn, let's start with you.
Sure. Leadership, I would say, is big, and business and marketing and communication skills are obviously very important in my line of work.
And Sophia?
I would say ask a lot of questions, because what I do is you don't get a lot of finite details from the people that need to give it to you. So you need to ask lots of questions and extract all that information and try to get information, gather as much as you can. Attention to detail is very important, because again, other parties are just trying to get the deal done. You're the one that's looking at like the fine print. So attention to detail is huge. And the last one I would say is build relationships, because the more you build relationships with other people in the company or other people in your industry, the easier it will be to negotiate things, to ask questions, to even just to be on people's radar, to be like, oh, hey, I had that conversation with Sophia, and she mentioned that this was maybe going to be an issue. Let's loop her in. That's so important. So I would say building relationships as well.
And how about you, Suzanne?
So I'm going to, you asked for 3. I'm gonna say relationship is a really big one. You need to build relationships inside your company, but also with your clients, because you need to be that person that they want to pick up the phone and work with, and willing to. It's the only way you get a good solution to the table, if you actually have good working relationships. So client relationships and internal relationships are really, really important. Strong communication skills. You need to be able to get your point across, but also understand what they are looking for, what they could be, the client or internal within your organization. So be able to listen, to communicate, to really understand. And then the last one is what I call leadership. It's bringing really smart people to the table and let them do what they have to do in order to get the right solution for your client.
That's great, Suzanne. So we're on our last question, And I think this is a really great one. What advice would you give to someone in high school now who is interested in a career in real estate? And let's start with Sophia.
Okay, so I think this is generally for life, not just career-wise. So I would say keep shining, focus on yourself. Don't worry about anybody else and what anybody else thinks and what anybody else says. If you have a passion for something, go do it and don't let anyone make you think that you can't.
That's awesome. Suzanne?
That is awesome. I love that one. I would say ask as many questions as you can. I think that when you're starting out your career, you literally have no idea where you're going, where it's going to lead you, and where it could take you. So, as a young person in any career, but if you're looking at corporate real estate, ask as many questions as you can. Bring the best you to the table every single day. Make sure that people want to work with you, and doors will open, and some you will think, maybe is not for me, but others you will shine and find that it's something that you absolutely love to do. So just literally be open and ask questions and be engaged.
That's great. And Carolyn?
Yeah, great advice so far. Because my career path was very windy, I would say, if you wanted something a little bit more straightforward, figure out what your strengths are, figure out what you're passionate about. And like my fellow panelists have said, ask questions. I would talk to your guidance counselor, connect with somebody at Toronto Crew. We'd all love to talk to you, but you need to talk to people about what it is you like to do, and learn about the endless possibilities in commercial real estate. There are just so many professions that exist out there. And if somebody like me with a background in art history can end up with a long and fulfilling career in real estate, commercial real estate, then absolutely you can too, those of you who are listening.
That's great. Thank you. I wish we had more time. Thank you to all of our panelists. That was very informative, and I really enjoyed learning more about your careers. And as Carolyn mentioned, it's really important to try to reach out, learn, and on our website, you have links to our LinkedIn profile. So if you're interested in learning more about our careers or education, or you just want to reach out and ask a question, please feel free to do so. So we're going to now move on to our Kahoot game. We have some fun facts about real estate and the companies we talked about today. So go to kahoot.it online or on your mobile device. And if you were paying attention, our panelists have given you some of the answers to the questions that we have for you today. So over to Michelle Hunt.
Thank you for that. I learned so much, and I really enjoyed hearing our panelists' stories and educational paths. So to the Kahoot game, where I've got it loaded, if you could go to kahoot.it, or if you have it already on your phone, you can enter that PIN 6619305. And we're just going to wait for some players to join so that we can get started and play the game.
Michelle, in the meantime, we had a question.
Yeah.
And the question was, do you find that there's a lot of day-to-day pressure? And so that's, I guess, in relation to the leases that we're working on. So I think to answer that, I would say sometimes yes, but it's so fun to work on something that it can be a back-to-back negotiation, and it can be, you're getting ready to, people are going to walk away from the table, or it's not going to get done, and then it gets done and it feels so good, and then it's wrapped up with a bow, and like you forget about it kind of thing, right? Because the store's open and now everything's functioning, and it's hopefully you won't have to look back at your lease. So yes, there can be some pressure on the day-to-day, but I would say I love what I do, so it makes it worth it. And then I also think that Oxford, there's great leadership. So I never feel like I'm on my own. So if I have a bigger issue or I have anything, there's always colleagues and always leadership that I can go to help get a deal to the finish line, basically. So just wanted to.
That's really good advice. Unfortunately, the Kahoot game just dropped. So I'm going to try a new PowerPoint slide, and we can just go from there, and you can enter your questions into the chat if you, have your answers. All right. So the first question is, what kind of career that was showcased in our panel today? Was it a leasing agent? Was a custodial supervisor, a legal manager, or an architect? If you can type in your answer in the chat of which career we showcased today, that would be fantastic. Was it Carolyn? Was it Suzanne? Was it Sophia? We've got a leasing agent. That's one guess. Well, the actual answer is legal manager, and that was Sophia. So the next question is, to have a career in commercial real estate, you need to enroll in a post-secondary institute that offers a real estate program. Is this true or false? Do you have to enroll in a post-secondary? Chelsea, you are right. The answer is false. There's so many paths to commercial real estate, even through college and university. So, like the paths are endless. And I think it's a good suggestion to reach out and talk to different people to find out what their paths were. So a career in commercial real estate includes these types of careers, or does it include all of them? Accounting, law, building operations, what do you think? You are right, Chelsea. Again, it's all of the above. And that's the great thing about real estate, is you can delve into all different types of transactions or finance or law with leasing. So there's so many avenues. So the next question is about one of our panel members, Sophia from Oxford, and she listed some of the properties that she was negotiating leases for. Do you remember which one she mentioned? You've got Yorkdale Mall, we've got Fairview Mall, Hillcrest Mall, and Eaton Center. Let's see if you guys remember from her presentation. Nope, it was not Eaton Center. Oh, we got another right answer. It's Yorkdale. But you mentioned some others, Sophia, as well. You've worked on a couple of these iconic malls that we know of. So that's fantastic. So the next question, is it true or false? And our panel member, Suzanne, who works for Infrastructure Ontario, they're working on the revitalization of Ontario Place. Is this true or false? Ontario Place is one of my favorite places. I recently, well, before COVID, went to see a movie. So that was actually pretty fun. Yes, Aaliyah, it is true. So that is a great guess. And Carolyn, another panel member who works at eService in Tenant Engagement, think about what of the three that are listed here, the types are examples of tenant engagement services. So there's tenant communications, there's event planning, there's social media engagement, site inspection. Which one of these three out of the four are correct? Yes, event planning is definitely one of them. Let's see if we got some other answers. Yes, tenant communication is the other one. Let's see if we can get the third correct answer. All right. Site inspection is not one of them, but social media management is definitely one of them. So thank you all for participating. And I think we have one more question. So it's a kind of a poll. Let us know if this webinar helped you to understand the different careers available in commercial real estate. So, you know, that's what this aim of today is, to really showcase all the possibilities and all the wonderful things that our panelists were talking about. Suzanne, Carolyn, and Sophia, even Alicia, you know, they all work on different aspects of commercial real estate, and we wanted to make sure that you all were aware and stay curious and come back and ask us. So with that, I'm going to stop the quiz, but I'm going to let you know that there are additional materials that you can continue the learning with, and all you have to do is come back next week, check out torontocrew.org, and we have some additional materials there available for you to participate in. There's an instructor-led negotiation game where you'll get to do a landlord and tenant negotiating a lease, and then the other kind of opportunity to learn more is a quiz, a Kahoot quiz, self-paced for students to take, and at the end you'll have the opportunity to enter into a contest to win a Starbucks gift card. So I saw there was a question in the chat. We'll definitely send out the information to instructors, and we'll also post it on torontocrew.org so that you can download the materials yourself. And with that, I want to thank you for taking the time with us and spending our afternoon session. And we hope to see you again next year at Real Jobs Day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So,
Thank you.